This is my review on Daredevil 2003, the theatrical cut. I give this a 10 out of 10. It's one of my favorite comic book movies, I gotta say. Yeah, it's a love story between Daredevil and Elektra, but, pretty much every movie, standalone comic book movies was in the standalone 2000 standalone comic book genre, almost love story, so. Well, I had a lot of interest in, so. And I do like Ben Affleck and the rest of the cast as the cast of Daredevil, and Ben Affleck as Daredevil. I like the Daredevil costume in the movie and the attention to detail. And still, I think it's the best Daredevil costume to this day. Even the kind of brown, red improved costume that Charlie Cox wore in season 2 of Daredevil. And it's a really cool Daredevil costume. And the action scenes, the action stunts, action stunt work, it really looks like it holds up well, and mixed with some CGI fight scenes. It all mixes pretty well together, and it still holds up, I think. A lot of the action scene action stuff does still hold up, I think, well. And I like Colin Farrell as Bullseye and Michael Clarke Duncan as the Kingpin. They were really entertaining in the movie. And so was Jennifer Garner as Elektra. Like, they all seem like they actually, took it seriously, but also seem like they also kind of got into it. The only downside to this movie is that Colin Farrell's Bullseye doesn't get a costume. And I guess if they were going to save that for a sequel, if they ever made a sequel to this. Because it did say he did require a costume if he's going to work for Kingpin. The plot says because that was his requirement to work for Kingpin, so he gets a costume. So maybe they were going to build to that Bullseye costume, and he wouldn't have stayed stuck like this Colin Farrell hybrid of Bullseye looking design. Instead, probably a little more classic Bullseye from the comics, and later some of it did continue this, but they didn't, so. Sadly. So yeah, I really love this movie. I give it a 10 out of 10. I like the theatrical cut story. It told the love story between Elektra and Daredevil, and I like how the movie opens up with Daredevil bleeding out in church, and his Daredevil costume, and ends. It kind of basically, I like how flashback from and recaps the whole event itself leading up to that point, so basically catches up to everything. The audience by listening to Daredevil's brooding narration, saying he's seen his life flash, his entire life flash before his eyes. Basically, but he's seeing the reverse of it. He says it's so. And we see how he got blind. We see how he had the ability to be Daredevil. And his origin story played out like in the comics. And very similar. You know, there's some like minor changes. It's pretty minor considering what they did was a Spider-Man origin story changes. And X-Men changes. And Punisher changes from the 2000s. That he did. Adaptations of those, so one Trans is just more faithful than the other comic book media for the time. And I gotta say, this came out in 2003. You know, back when people were obsessed with making things dark and real looking, and I think that instantly makes it better. I like how like the movie captures Daredevil in a monologue when he's talking to himself and breathing to himself in person in his head, and also captured how Daredevil moves in the comics when he's with his acrobat skills moving through the city and fighting goons, you know. So there's a lot of, I mean, I really love this movie. I really like how it took its source material seriously. I like how, like, you know, for a PG-13, it's pretty violent of a movie. And pretty has some intense action scenes at times, sometimes, for a PG-13 movie. It is pretty violent for I was surprised, I mean, this is probably the most violent a PG-13 movie ever got in the early 2000s era of comic book movies, especially for Marvel brands. When it was basically Sony and Fox making Marvel movies before Marvel started making their own movies, so and that's the reason why I love this movie, I think. So yeah, Daredevil gets a 10 out of 10. Now I'm going to talk about the director's cut to Daredevil from 2003's Daredevil movie. Now the director's cut has a bit of a different premise of a plot, so it does still have the love story of between Daredevil and Electro. It's not, though doesn't not really as, even though it gets more screen time, pay attention. We have another plot tone to move the full line, like Daredevil was investing, using his brains in investigating crime, and finding out like the guy that claimed he's innocent lied in court and had a pacemaker installed in his heart, and figure out he lied in court. I will say I do like how the director's cut does do a better job making like Daredevil the sympathetic hero. Like I will say it was a bit out of character for Daredevil in the theatrical cut. Kind of always bothered me that he decided to spend the night with Elektra instead of going to save this guy getting mugged and not doing it. And the director's cut is actually the reverse outcome. And yeah, so he doesn't spend the night with Elektra in this one, which was weird. I was expecting that there was that much. I didn't expect there was going to be more. There was a lot more difference in the director's cut than I expected it to be, and a lot more. And unlike the violence is, well, the violence is. In the movie, it's like it's longer, but not that much different compared to the violence in PG-13 cut, because both cuts are still pretty violent. But yeah, R-rated cuts of the director's cut is more violent. Definitely. But not by much, I don't think. I think it is not that much. The tone and the story playing out, I feels that's where the most different is. So yeah, that's my thoughts on review on Daredevil, the theatrical cut and the director's cut. 10 out of 10. Both cuts of Daredevil get 10 out of 10. I'm giving. Goodbye and subscribe, please.